On today's episode of Locked On Wild, a rocky weekend with a win and in scenario, so it all comes down to one final game.
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team each and every day, and we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day as well. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, we'll talk about why winning in turned into, well, now you got to win. As the Minnesota Wild fell flat against the Calgary Flames, they did pick up an overtime win against the Vancouver Canucks. We'll lay out all of these scenarios for the postseason here this week. We'll talk about Zeev Buium, who will be heading to Minnesota to join the Minnesota Wild after signing his entry-level contract. We'll discuss where he could fit in the lineup, and we will take a look at the Anaheim Ducks coming up this week. The only game that matters, it's a simple formula, much like it was Friday night against Calgary. Win, and you're in. My name is Seth Toupal, host of Locked On Wild, credentialed media member, joined by Alex Micheletti here for another Monday edition of the show. And Alex, it is a Monday, a Victory Micheletti Monday, because the Wild did get the overtime win over Vancouver on Saturday. But that Friday game, man, I just win and in. You can drive a stake right through the hearts of the Calgary Flames, put them out to pasture. And it was a lot of what we've seen in many of these big game scenarios where the team is just flat and just they can't drive, they can't get shots on net. Filip Gustavsson ends up getting chased. There is concern, there's panic. That was rough on Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, Calgary is desperate. The Wild should be desperate too, because they're not clinched yet. Calgary, they're trying to prove a point that they think they're a better team than the Wild. And for one night, they showed it. It's this last week is just, it's chaos, right? If they make the playoffs, they can't play like this, or else they're going to get swept. There's plain and simple. So they can't let this upcoming game against Anaheim. They just can't play like they did on Friday. It's curtains on the season.
And this is the concerning part for me, is that it was another one of those games where you get the standard phrases after, but we weren't able to match the level of desperation that Calgary had. We didn't match the intensity from the get-go. We were the second most competitive team on the ice. John Hines said that after the game. And
game 80, that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, we talk about Calgary playing for their playoff lives. I'm sorry. You just, at this point in the season, I don't care if you have nothing left in the tank. You gotta be throwing as much as you have, and they
have more talent than Calgary. It's super frustrating.
There was nothing in that Calgary game. It was just another one of those games where you show up late and the other team just has their way with you. And it's a Calgary team that has struggled to score goals all season. And it's another one of those games where the only reason that it was 2 or 3-0 was because of Filip Gustavsson. And it's another one of those where you hear the 18 skaters in front of Filip Gustavsson did him no favors. And like these are things, these are talking points that you should be having within the first month of the season. And look, I'm not expecting perfection, because you're never going to get that.
No.
But it's one thing to lose a game and just say, hey, we battled out there. We tip our cap. Calgary was the better team. They had the better chances. We couldn't execute on ours. It's another thing to say they were the more desperate team. We started off slow. We didn't match. Like, you can't have that.
No, and I think looking back now, the San Jose game was probably the worst thing to happen for this team, is because they just thought the rest of the way it was going to be like that San Jose game. John Hines called it pond hockey. Yeah, it's just you can't sustain that style. Past the game that it occurs. It doesn't happen multiple times in a row, and I think it came back to bite them for sure.
Did you hear the sequence of events after that Calgary game that Russo laid out on X? Let me paint the picture for you. So, closed door meeting after the game. So for the closed door meeting counters in the comments, check. Closed door meeting, lengthy closed door meeting, followed by the coaches going in and having an even lengthier meeting with the players. And so the media, I always feel bad in these situations, because it's like it's a late enough game as it is. Media is trying to get the stories written and get everything published and out. And you got these going on. So both meetings are done. Not a single player was left after both of the meetings were done, except for one. Can you guess who it was?
Matt Zuccarello, of course. Always.
Time and time again. He just, anytime things go wrong, he's always the one that answers the questions. And to Zuccarello's credit, had the game-winning goal against Vancouver. And for a team that just, that has been one of the more interesting things about this season, is there has been so little chatter from different pieces of the team. And I don't know, you're having a closed door meeting in game 81. And it brings me to my overall point, is that the key mark of this year's Minnesota Wild team can never just make it easy. Can never just, hey, we're going to take our playoff lives, we're going to take our situation into our own hands and just take care of business. We're just going to do what we need to do. Can never have that, because there was even a clinching scenario earlier tonight, but guess what you had to rely on for that to happen? You had to rely on the San Jose Sharks to beat the Calgary Flames. And here's how seriously the Sharks took it. They started something called Gorgi Romanov in net.
No one has heard of him, not even his own family. It's a creative player, like when that MLB game where Barry Bonds couldn't be a player, so they just created a guy for him.
Jace Peterson.
Yeah, in place. Yeah, just absolutely ridiculous how San Jose just has no care factor.
I'm so glad you brought up that instance, because I have a vivid memory of playing with that character, and it wasn't just that the hitting had been pushed all the way up. It said every ball that you made contact with was basically an automatic home run. And I hit a line drive off the pitching mound that went out of the stadium for a ground rule double. So JD from Locked On Sharks, if you're listening to this, please advise, is Gorgi Romanov a real person, or is this a prospect, or is this just e-bug? Did you just grab somebody out of the stadium and say, hey, come here, we need a goalie tonight?
Did you play hockey in Siberia when growing up?
So basic point being is that there was no clinch, because the Calgary Flames won their game, which is going to lead to just a mess this week, because I know this wasn't the initial plan because there's a makeup game that is involved here, but
the wildfire.
This is the way that this is playing out is a mess because so the Wild and the Blues play Tuesday, but then you have to wait basically to see what's going to happen because you've got this makeup.
It's chaos, right? Not ideal for any of the three teams, and I mean, in the fact that it has to be a home game too, where the Wild have struggled, it's just like I don't know what to expect. This Anaheim team is so goofy; they're so inconsistent. It looks like they at times are going to turn the page or turn the corner, and they have a lead on Colorado, who's sitting a bunch of players. They have the 2-0 lead, like you said, and then they just cough it up and let Colorado win without Makar, without McKinnon, resting. It's just like, are you kidding me? Shout out to Wyatt Amott, former Maverick, gets his first NHL goal in his second NHL game. A 27-year-old rookie. I mean, to grind that much and finally make it to the NHL, even though, if this is his only 2 games, you can say, hey, he can tell his grandchildren, hey, I played in the NHL. So pretty cool for him. And I know he had some family out there from Hermantown. So
got to play with Brock Nelson and Charlie Coyle.
Yes.
So how about that?
Good stuff.
Speaking of some potential new faces, the Wild made it official earlier yesterday that Zeev Buium is going to be joining the team. So we'll talk about the fit and what he can bring to the table as we continue today's episode of Locked on Wilds after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands-on for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. For instance, if you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who can deliver incredible results. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, multiple qualified candidates will be there for you to choose from. So visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked on Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. We are your team each and every day as well. Schedule for the week. So we'll see if we can sneak in a postcast Tuesday. I have a baseball game, but it's in town. So it should be ending right around the same time that the Wild game is done. So it may be a little later than we typically go, but we'll sneak one in because if the Wild don't clinch on Tuesday, then then we're probably gonna have to do a watch along for the final game for the Calgary Flames to see if they find a way to miraculously sneak in. It's a mess. We will go through the entire scenario of what's left to finish the show, but wanted to talk a little bit, Alex, about Zeev Buium because he officially signed his ELC. He will join the Minnesota Wild, which means that he's going to burn a year of that ELC, which has become pretty standard process, pretty standard protocol for teams with top players. The thing that was crazy after the Denver game, after they lost, they mentioned he is the most decorated from a points perspective, most decorated college defenseman in 45 years as far as points, as far as goals and assists go.
Apparently not good enough for the Hobie Baker, which is just still mind-boggling. But
don't even get me started on that. Like he's going to bring some really good playmaking, and there was a lot of discussion on social media, which I try to mostly stay out of, but just reading some of the tea leaves, there's some concern as to Buium's staying ability in the NHL level, which I'm like, how? Okay.
What?
There should be no concerns. He's a dynamic puck handling playmaking ability is the big thing that Zeev is going to bring to the table. He may end up, at least to start, he may end up being somebody who gets paired up with a more defense-oriented defenseman, at least to start. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are plenty of players that have turned solid careers at the NHL level, which makes the question of where is he going to slide into the lineup just fascinating. Because if you just say, I'll just throw him on the third pairing with Zach Bogosian, I'm going to say, no, I don't think that's a good idea at all.
Yeah, I can't see it. I mean, maybe put him with Middleton. I know Brock loves playing with Middleton, but I think that makes more sense for him, and Brock's capable of playing with anybody, so that makes a lot more sense for him.
Well, and the interesting thing too is the Faber Middleton pairing. They were in the midst of a bit of a rough patch,
right?
Together when Middleton came back from his initial injury. They've struggled a bit. So breaking that grouping up, I don't think is the worst idea. Faber he's played with Brodin for early parts of the season when Spurgeon was out, when Middleton was out. Those two got paired up, and that pairing was very solid. I think Declan Chisholm is the perfect case study for this. Declan Chisholm's numbers on the third pairing, not great at all. Not good. Declan Chisholm away from the third pairing, perfectly fine, perfectly capable of filling into a top four role. So you tell me what to take from that, because it just seems like if you could put Buium in a spot where he's not just on that third pairing, I think he'll do fine.
Yeah. And, he's a guy that can play on the power play clearly. And watching that Vancouver game, oh my goodness, the power play was just gross. And, if they want to do the sheltered minutes type thing for him, I mean, put him on PP1 and let him get to work, and that will grow his confidence for sure. If he's going to play in the playoffs, if they make it, but Tuesday for sure.
So here's what I would do. Let's go Faber Brodin. Let's go, so we should also discuss the Spurgeon thing, because there was a lot of confusion about what happened there. Jared Spurgeon took a puck to the throat. We'd be very clear about that, and was having trouble breathing during the immediate aftermath of that incident. So he had to get helped to the bench. He went to the training room to try to get, I'm assuming, the inflammation from his airway to go down.
Insane.
Came back for a little bit, went back into the room and did not return because I'm assuming the airway was an issue. So I gotta be pretty blunt that when I saw people suggest, oh great, Spurgeon is hurt again, I'm like, you stand 10 feet away from the skater and take a puck to the throat.
That one he can't. That one he can't. There's nothing that's not, it's not his fault on that type of. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Anybody would have had that type of injury from that.
And then Hines is like, yeah, he's gonna be out. He's a little sore. I'm like, I would imagine.
Oh my goodness! So. Yes, yeah. I'm still surprised they even had him fly. Yeah, crazy.
But then, I was messaging you before the Vancouver game, and I'm like, take a look at these D pairs. And
I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. It was DEFCON, oh my goodness.
Yeah. No disrespect to Cameron Crotty, but not Jared Spurgeon.
No. And Crotty got maybe 5 minutes in that game, and Brodin and Faber were pushing 30, which is insane. I think Faber had the second highest minute total all season in the NHL. Zach Werenski was number one in a game, but just insane.
I don't care where Faber wants to go this offseason. He has earned it. Like wherever, if he wants to go somewhere for 3 weeks, go.
Yeah, I mean, in that Vancouver game, he was for the majority of the game until 10-ish minutes in the third period. And he was the only one showing pride. And that beautiful goal. He should have had 2 goals. I mean, that second one, the puck was never frozen by Lankinen. I mean, the refereeing was just, I don't know. It was chaos. It was all over the place. That it felt like a preseason game for a lot of it.
Sheryl Crow wrote a song in which the lyrics say, "Every day is a winding road," and I am talking about the officiating in particular. Every day is a winding road. I get a little bit closer. She says to feeling fine. I say to absolutely losing it.
Right.
In regards to the officiating, but
I always what is it, that Team America, and it's the guy puking everywhere. That's
Matt Damon doll just throwing up everywhere.
That's NHL officiating in a nutshell.
My gosh. Yeah. Well, anyway, let's do Faber, Brodin. Let's do Buium, Spurgeon.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I was just saying Middleton because I didn't know if Spurgeon was going to be available for Tuesday. Who knows?
If Spurgeon doesn't play, then put Middleton in that spot.
Yeah,
I agree.
Spurgeon is that's a capable pairing too.
The key thing is Buium is a left shot.
Yeah, so you want to get them on there.
It'd be best to pair him up with a right shot.
Yes, 100%. You don't want people playing on there. As we've seen with this wild decor, we want them to play on the correct, on your correct side.
They had the game earlier this year where they're like, well, Chisholm's a left shot, but we're going to play him here, and he's just going to have to figure it out. It's like,
no,
okay.
If you can do it, play him on their correct side. So yeah, Spurgeon makes sense. You might have to put him in bubble wrap for this game, but
yeah. So it's either going to be Bogosian, Faber, which I would dig that right off the bat, but that is that line's going to need some protection. So you better make sure you have Yakov Trenyan out there too.
Oh jeez! Well, break another orbital bone. Oh my goodness, crazy! That signing just looks worse and worse. I mean, they're lucky Vancouver didn't get an additional 5 minute,
honestly, I'm surprised they rescinded it. I'm surprised they rescinded it after the game to where he's not going to get suspended. It's like,
Department of Player Safety. As long as George Peros is in charge of that department, good luck. You can never get, what you think is going to be the correct outcome. It seems like it's just spin the wheel. It's unbelievable.
Maybe he's like Mr. Magoo, who is famously legally blind.
Yeah, he was a goon and when he played, and now for a guy that went to Princeton, what are we doing, George?
Not a lot, evidently. Well, it's going to be a crazy next couple of days, so let's lay out the exact scenarios that are going to happen, so there's no confusion. If this happens, this happens. If this team wins, this happens. We're going to lay all of it out on the table for the final game of the season, or in this case, for Calgary, final 2 games. We'll tell you all about it as we finish today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they are packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to keep you feeling fuller longer. I was watching the Masters all day yesterday and had my go-to snack, the honey roasted no shells. I went through basically an entire bag just watching Rory McIlroy go from way ahead to behind to kind of back, not so back. It was very compelling, and it was a delicious way to spend the day. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. We will have more intel on the Ducks coming up tomorrow. Obviously, they gave Colorado a bit of a push at the beginning, but fell apart. So we'll talk about the Ducks for game 82 here coming up tomorrow. And for those that were looking for the live show, yesterday, Denny not feeling the best. So we have pushed to Wednesday once the regular season is done. So we'll be able to talk about the playoffs if that is what comes next. Or if for some reason the Wild do not make the postseason, well, then we're going to have a lot to talk about. So join us Wednesday at 8. Rain or shine, I guess, is the best way to say that, depending on how things go for the Wild. Alex, let's lay out these scenarios because there's a lot going on here in the final couple of games. So let's start with the Minnesota Wild, who currently have 95 points with 1 game to play. Win in any fashion, and the Wild are in. If they secure the 2 points against Anaheim, they are in, and they would also secure the top wild card, thus avoiding the Winnipeg Jets, which feels like a bit of a big deal.
All President's Trophy Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah. Connor Hellebuck Winnipeg Jets.
Yes.
So win first wild card, and you get to go to Vegas, which is a great consolation prize.
Games have gone well there. Yeah, Game 7 has gone really well there.
So
I'll never forget the name Matthias Janmark now, because he had that hat trick in that game.
I am well decorated in terms of Minnesota postseason failures, but that was my first postseason as host of Locked On Wild, and that one very nearly did me in.
Ryan Reeves taking out Ryan Suter. That was what a mess.
Nearly so close, and it took Marc-Andre Fleury for the Golden Knights, which still feels weird to say, even though he spent that was his first stop after the Penguins. But him dueling Cam Talbot was just tremendous theater in that series.
Yeah.
And Jonas Brodin getting hurt in Game 7
immediately, that you're down to 5D in a playoff game. That was tough.
And they just did not. They never recovered from that. So that nearly did me in. So the rematch, I'm sure, will go completely according to plan. That is, however, only one possibility. If the Wild lose in regulation, God help us all. But if the Wild lose in regulation, if Calgary and St. Louis win out, then the Wild are out. So that's that possibility. If the Wild lose in overtime, they get 1 point to 96. then we could potentially have a 3-way tie. If the Wild lose in overtime, the Blues win their game, and the Flames win out, you would have 3 teams at 96 points, and then you go to a tiebreaker situation and all bets are off. Which feels like, honestly, it feels like that's the most likely thing to happen just because of how this season has gone. But I'll have to figure out what the tiebreaker situations even are. They change so often.
Right. It's like wins in regulation or something like that. Yeah.
If it is regulation wins, the Minnesota Wilds, so let's assume it is regulation wins. The Minnesota Wild would own the tiebreaker with 33 regulation wins. St. Louis has 31 with 1 game to play. Calgary has 30 with 2 games to play. So if that's the tiebreaker, the Minnesota Wild are in. If the Wild lose, if the Wild lose and St. Louis wins, but Calgary fails to win out, then both the Wild, the Blues are in, but the Wild are wild card 2 and then play Winnipeg. There is also a scenario in which, basically the only scenario in which Calgary gets in is if they win out and St. Louis loses.
They have to. Otherwise they're screwed.
Because if we get
Calgary is the biggest Utah hockey club fan.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, St. Louis plays Utah in their final game. That's at St. Louis. St. Louis having lost 3 in a row now after winning 11 straight, looking like the best team on the planet. They've lost to the Jets 3-1, the Oilers 4-3, and the Kraken 4-3.
They missed Dylan Holloway. That's tough.
Yeah.
People were making the jokes about putting a gopher out there in the shootout because the Gophers haven't gotten the shootout goal in like a couple of years, and they threw Jimmy Snuggerud out there, and he got stopped by Philip Grubauer of all people. I cannot believe that Grubauer ended up winning that game. Just crazy.
It has been it's been a journey for Philip Grubauer, to say the least. And I'm just looking at an article from USA Today just to confirm. So if 2 or more teams are tied in points at the end of the regular season, here are the tiebreakers. Regulation wins.
There we go.
Regulation and overtime wins. Total wins. Most points earned in head-to-head competition, which if it gets to a 4th tiebreaker, the Wild are toast.
And that would be so Minnesota sports, right? For that to get to a 4th tiebreaker scenario to miss out on the playoffs.
Yeah, so thankfully the regulation wins and I like the regulation wins is first because we need to do something about the overtime point.
Just get rid of it because teams are just. I mean, you've seen near the end of the regular season, sometimes teams are just all they care about is getting that 1 point. They don't even care about getting the other.
The Calgary Flames have 14 overtime losses this year. Why are we rewarding that? Why are we celebrating that?
Right. Yeah. Come on.
So their overall record is 39-41. That doesn't sound like playoffs to me.
No.
But if they win 2 games against teams that have already clinched and are therefore resting,
nothing to play for, yeah,
then they're going to be right in the thick of it.
Right. How about the Kings? They have to play McDavid and Draisaitl for the 4th year in a row. I mean, both fan bases have to just be like, are you kidding me, Gary Bettman, with this playoff format? 4 years in a row, and Edmonton's just whooped them every time.
It wouldn't change anything for the Wild but it would eliminate Vegas Edmonton. Because if we go to the 1 through 8, Winnipeg is still the number 1. Vegas is the number 2, at least right now. There are still games to be played, but Vegas is still the number 2. The Wild would be the 7 seed, but it would eliminate Kings Oilers, and it would also separate Stars Avs, which it feels like should be a later series anyway.
Yeah, both of those fan bases are going to be furious. I mean, a really, really, really good team is going to be knocked out right away, which is unfortunate. I mean, Dallas without Heiskanen, I mean, yeah, their D core is not good. I mean, they're throwing out Cody Ceci, Matt Dumba, just some bums out there on the back end.
Dallas has lost 5 games in a row.
Yeah,
yuck.
Bad vibes right now.
And the Colorado Avalanche, who played last night against the Ducks, they're done. they're done for the season. Like they're done until the playoffs start.
Wild. Yeah, they didn't even. They told Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar, you don't even have to
come back next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Yeah,
go take a vacation and come back.
Insane.
So it's.
And they might have Gabe Landeskog too. That was incredible that he scored for his first time in 3 years. I couldn't imagine how emotional that must have been.
That was a great kind of comeback story for sure. I feel like this is the one year where I want to see Stars Avs as early as possible because of the Rantanen angle.
Right. Oh, that'll be some bad blood there for sure. You know, he's going to want to score on Wedgwood or Blackwood, whoever they decide to go with in that.
Good luck with that choice.
Oof.
So it just, like we said on Friday, winning in on Tuesday. But
I mean, who knows with this Anaheim team, and who knows who they're going to have in goal? You know, it could be someone that if it's Billy Husso, you know then that they aren't. Yeah, it's imagine if it is. Oh man, that would be something. You just never know. I mean, they have the young talent on that team. I mean, Troy Terry and Cutter Gauthier and
Frank
Leo
Vitrano.
Carlson. Yeah, that guy, he can fire the puck. And how about Jackson Lacombe? The former Gophers just had an incredible season for them. Good for Jackson, but they're just a weird team. I don't know if Greg Cronin's going to last very long there. It seems like he is very old school, and Anaheim has a lot of young guys. It doesn't seem like that is a good combo.
I know who could get him in shape. Mike Babcock.
Yes. Hey, Trevor Zegras, let me have your
phone.
Let me see your phone.
You got to check your phone.
Yes.
Unbelievable attitude. Well, buckle up, folks, because it is going to be
like Russo says. Buckle up.
It is going to be something here over these.
Never dull.
No. So we'll keep you up to date, and it's like I'm not wishing for it to happen, but if they fall behind 1-0 at home in game 82 of the season against the Anaheim Ducks, it's gonna get tense. Yeah. But they fought their way back against Vancouver to win that game. It just would be nice. It just would be nice to take care of business. I love that song. I forget the name of the artist, but Taking Care of Business. No working overtime in this one. Just yes. In regulation, please. Be done with it.
Make it easy. Yeah.
Well, we'll keep you up to date here throughout the rest of the week. Appreciate everybody tuning in for today's episode of Locked On Wild. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. We've got new ones for you every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.